Eckhart Tolle isn't just another spiritual teacher with abstract ideas. His insights have transformed the lives of millions, cutting through the noise of modern life to reveal something timeless, something profound. His teachings aren't rooted in complex philosophies or distant spiritual traditions. Instead, they speak directly to the core of human experience, challenging the very foundations of how we perceive reality. Why does this matter to you? Because the way you see the world shapes everything: your thoughts, emotions, relationships, even the way you define yourself. If your perception is clouded by unconscious patterns, limiting beliefs, and mental noise, you're not truly living. You're just existing within a framework you never questioned. But here's where it gets interesting. Tolle's teachings don't offer quick fixes or surface-level advice. They peel back the layers of illusion we've built over time. They reveal truths that, once seen, cannot be unseen. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Consider this. Most people live their entire lives without ever questioning the reality they experience. They move from one moment to the next, reacting, chasing, fearing, desiring, caught in a loop. But what if there's more? What if beneath all the noise, there's a simple, undeniable truth that could set you free? That's what we're here to explore. Eckhart Tolle's journey wasn't marked by years of study in monasteries or isolated retreats. In fact, his life was once filled with deep anxiety, depression, and existential despair, until one pivotal moment changed everything. One realization shattered his old identity, dissolving the mental structures that caused his suffering. He didn't just learn something new, he woke up. And that's the point. Awakening isn't about adding new knowledge. It's about recognizing what's always been there, hidden beneath the mind's endless chatter. His teachings help us see that the very thing we're searching for, peace, happiness, fulfillment, isn't out there somewhere. It's right here, hidden in plain sight, within you. So why should you care about these 7 secrets? Because they're not just concepts to think about. They're doorways. Each one is designed to crack open your current perception, allowing light to pour through the gaps. You might find that some of these ideas feel familiar, as if you've always known them deep down but never had the words to articulate them. Others might challenge you, triggering resistance. That's normal. In fact, it's a sign you're on the edge of something transformative. Let's be honest. Most of us live on autopilot. We wake up, check our phones, rush through routines, get lost in thoughts about the past or future, and rarely stop to question the deeper layers of our existence. But beneath that busyness, there's a quiet awareness, a stillness that's always present, always observing. Tolle's wisdom points us back to that space. His teachings aren't about adopting new beliefs. They're about seeing through the illusions of the mind, the stories we tell ourselves, the identities we cling to. And once you see, you can't unsee. Life begins to unfold differently. The same external circumstances, but a completely new internal experience. Think of it like this. Imagine wearing a pair of tinted glasses your entire life. You've forgotten you're even wearing them, assuming the world simply looks that way. But one day, someone points out the glasses, and you take them off. Suddenly, the colors are brighter, the details sharper, the world more vivid. That's what these 7 secrets can do. Not change the world itself, but change how you see it. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds interesting, but will it really make a difference in my life? The answer is yes, if you're open. Not just intellectually, but emotionally, spiritually. This isn't about agreeing or disagreeing. It's about experiencing the truth behind the words. As Tolle often says, the words are just pointers. The real transformation happens when you look beyond them to what they're pointing toward. So, here's what I invite you to do as we go through each secret. Don't just listen with your mind. Feel into the spaces between the words. Notice your reactions, not to judge them, but to become aware of them. Awareness itself is transformative. And remember, the goal isn't to get somewhere. There's nowhere to get. The shift happens here and now, in the present moment, as you open to a deeper understanding of what's already true. Are you ready? Let's begin with secret number 1. A concept so simple yet profound that it can dissolve years of stress and struggle in an instant. The illusion of control. Secret number 1, the illusion of control. Have you ever felt like you're constantly trying to manage every detail of your life? Planning, predicting, and preparing just to feel a sense of security? It's almost like we've been programmed to believe that if we can just control everything around us, we'll finally find peace. But here's the paradox. The more we try to control, the more anxious and overwhelmed we feel. Why? Because control is an illusion. Think about it. How much of what happens in your life is actually under your control? You didn't choose the family you were born into, the country where you grew up, or the circumstances of your early years. You don't control the weather, the economy, other people's actions, or even your own thoughts to a large extent. Thoughts arise, emotions surge, and life unfolds, often in ways you never expected. Yet, despite this obvious truth, we cling to the belief that we're the master puppeteers of our existence. We create rigid plans, set expectations, and then suffer when reality doesn't align with them. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away. But here's where it gets interesting. What happens when you truly release the need to control? Not just pretending to let go while secretly holding on underneath, but genuinely surrendering to the flow of life. The answer isn't what you'd expect. Instead of chaos, you find peace. Instead of feeling powerless, you tap into a deeper sense of strength. Because freedom doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from aligning with it. Eckhart Tolle explains this beautifully. He suggests that our obsession with control is rooted in the ego, the part of us that's always trying to protect itself, to feel important, to survive. The ego fears the unknown, so it creates stories about how things should be. When life doesn't match those stories, we experience stress, frustration, and disappointment. But here's the truth. Life isn't personal. It's not happening to you. It's simply happening. The sun rises, the seasons change, people come and go, opportunities appear and disappear. None of it is about you, and that realization is profoundly liberating. When you stop trying to force life into a box, you open yourself to possibilities you never imagined. You become more adaptable, more resilient, more at peace. You start to flow with life rather than fighting against it. And ironically, that's when you experience a deeper sense of control, not over external circumstances but over your internal state. Consider this. Have you ever been so caught up in trying to make something happen that you missed the beauty of the moment you were in? Maybe you were on a vacation worrying about work, or in a conversation, planning what to say next instead of truly listening. That's the illusion of control at work, pulling you out of the present and into a mental construct of how things should be. But when you let go, you return to the now. You realize that this moment is all there ever is, and it's complete, just as it is. You don't need to manipulate it, fix it, or control it. You just need to be fully present with it. This doesn't mean you stop making plans or setting goals. It means you do so from a place of clarity and acceptance, rather than fear and resistance. You recognize that while you can influence your life through actions and choices, you're not the ultimate authority over how everything unfolds. And that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's a relief. Think about the energy you expend trying to control things that are beyond your grasp. The sleepless nights, the overthinking, the tension in your body. Now imagine what it would feel like to release all of that. To trust that life has its own rhythm, its own intelligence, and you don't have to micromanage it. This doesn't make you passive. On the contrary, it makes you more effective. When you're not clouded by anxiety and rigid expectations, you see opportunities more clearly. You respond to challenges with creativity and calm. You make decisions from a place of wisdom rather than fear. Eckhart Tolle often uses the metaphor of the ocean to describe this dynamic. The surface of the ocean is full of waves, sometimes calm, sometimes stormy. If you identify only with the surface, you'll feel tossed around by every change. But beneath the surface, the ocean is vast, deep, and still. That depth represents the part of you that doesn't need to control, because it's already whole. So, how do you shift from the illusion of control to this deeper state of being? It starts with awareness. Notice when you're gripped by the need to control. Pay attention to the physical sensations, the tightness in your chest, the tension in your jaw, the racing thoughts. Instead of reacting automatically, Pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I let go? Often, the fear isn't as big as it feels. It's just an old pattern running in the background. Then, gently invite yourself to trust. Not in a blind, naive way, but with the recognition that life has carried you this far. Even through challenges, you've grown, learned, and adapted. There's an intelligence to life that's bigger than your personal plans. And here's the beautiful paradox. The less you try to control life, the more life supports you. Not because circumstances suddenly become perfect, but because you're no longer resisting them. You flow with the current instead of exhausting yourself by swimming against it. So, ask yourself, where in your life are you holding on too tightly? What would it feel like to loosen your grip, even just a little? Not to give up, but to give in to the natural flow of life. The illusion of control keeps us trapped in fear, but the truth sets us free. And freedom isn't found in mastering the external world. It's found in mastering your inner world, where true peace resides. Now that you've seen how the illusion of control shapes your experience, get ready for something even deeper. In the next section, we'll uncover a hidden force that influences your emotions in ways you've probably never realized. It's called the pain body, and understanding it can change everything. Secret number 2, the pain body revelation. Have you ever found yourself overwhelmed by a wave of negative emotions that seemed to come out of nowhere? Maybe it was a sudden burst of anger, a deep sadness that didn't make sense, or an anxiety that felt disproportionate to the situation. You might have thought, why am I feeling this way? This isn't me. That's because it isn't just you, it's something Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body. The pain body isn't just a metaphor for emotional baggage. It's an actual energy field within you, made up of old emotional pain from past experiences, unresolved hurt, trauma, and negativity that hasn't been fully processed. Tolle describes it as a semi-autonomous entity that lives inside most people, feeding on negative emotions to sustain itself. Now, here's the shocking part. Most people go through life completely unaware that this hidden force is influencing their thoughts, reactions, and even relationships. Imagine having an invisible program running in the background of your mind, quietly steering your emotions and decisions without your consent. That's the pain body. You might be wondering, how does this even work? Think of the pain body like a dormant volcano. On the surface, everything seems calm, but underneath, pressure is building. Then, something seemingly small, a comment from someone, a stressful situation, a minor disappointment, triggers it. Suddenly, the volcano erupts. You lash out, spiral into sadness, or feel consumed by anxiety. The key insight here is this. The trigger isn't the cause of your overwhelming reaction. It's just the spark. The real fuel comes from accumulated emotional pain stored within you. That's why some people overreact to situations that others find trivial. It's not about the situation itself. It's about what's been buried inside. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The pain body doesn't just sit quietly waiting to be triggered. It actively seeks out situations to feed on. This is why people sometimes find themselves in repetitive negative patterns, choosing toxic relationships, sabotaging their own success, or attracting drama into their lives. On an unconscious level, the pain body wants to be fed because it thrives on emotional suffering. It sounds unsettling, doesn't it? But here's the good news. Awareness is the key to dissolving the pain body. The moment you recognize its presence, its grip on you begins to weaken. This isn't about fighting it or trying to suppress it. That only makes it stronger. Instead, it's about observing it without judgment, like shining a light in a dark room. Think about it. Have you ever had an argument where, in the heat of the moment, you said things you didn't mean, fueled by intense emotions? Later, when you calmed down, you might have thought, why did I react that way? That's not like me. That's because, in that moment, it wasn't the real you speaking. It was the pain body hijacking your consciousness. Eckhart Tolle explains that the pain body operates like a parasite. It doesn't want to be seen because its survival depends on remaining unconscious. But the simple act of noticing it, this is my pain body reacting right now, starts to dissolve its power. Awareness is like sunlight to a shadow. The moment you shine light on it, it begins to fade. Now, you might be thinking, if the pain body feeds on negativity, how do I stop feeding it? The answer isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending to be positive all the time. It's about being fully present with your emotions without getting lost in them. Here's how you can practice this. Notice the trigger. When you feel a surge of negative emotion, pause. Instead of reacting automatically, take a breath and simply notice what's happening inside you. Observe without judgment. Label the emotion, this is anger, or this is sadness. Don't judge it as good or bad. Just observe it like you'd watch clouds passing in the sky. Feel the energy. Shift your attention from the story in your mind to the physical sensation in your body. Where do you feel it? In your chest? Your stomach? Your throat? Feel it fully without trying to change it. Allow it to be. Instead of resisting the emotion, give it space. Ironically, when you stop fighting it, the emotion begins to lose its intensity. Stay present. The pain body feeds on unconscious reactivity. But the more present you are, the less fuel it has. This simple practice can be life-changing. Over time, you'll notice that the pain body becomes less active. It may still get triggered occasionally, but it won't have the same control over you. Another profound insight from Tolle is that the pain body isn't just personal. It's also collective. Entire groups, cultures, and even nations can have collective pain bodies shaped by historical trauma, conflict, and suffering. This is why history often repeats itself. Wars, prejudice, and cycles of violence are manifestations of unhealed collective pain. But here's the most empowering part. When you heal your personal pain body, you're not just transforming your own life. You're contributing to the healing of the collective. Every time you choose awareness over unconscious reactivity, you're breaking the cycle not just for yourself but for the world around you. Now, this might sound overwhelming, but remember, you don't have to fix everything overnight. Even small moments of awareness create ripple effects. Each time you pause instead of reacting, each time you observe instead of judging, you're weakening the grip of the pain body. So, reflect on this. Can you think of times when your reactions felt bigger than the situation warranted? What if those moments weren't a sign of weakness but an opportunity to meet an old wound with new awareness? Understanding the pain body doesn't mean you'll never feel negative emotions again. Life will still have its challenges, but instead of being a prisoner to your emotions, you become the observer, the calm presence behind the storm. And in that space, you discover something extraordinary. You are not your pain. You never were. As we move forward, we'll uncover another layer of this transformation. If the pain body shapes your emotions, what shapes your sense of self? In the next section, we'll explore the identity trap and how the stories you tell yourself might be the very thing keeping you from true freedom. Secret number 3, the identity trap. Have you ever paused to question who you really are? Not your name, your job, your background, or your achievements, but beneath all of that, the essence of you. Most people go through life carrying an identity crafted from stories they've been told or stories they've told themselves. But here's the astonishing truth. These stories aren't who you are. They're just layers. And the more attached you are to them, the further you drift from your authentic self. Think about it. From childhood, you've been shaped by labels. You're smart, you're shy, you're a leader, or you're not good enough. These labels come from parents, teachers, society, and even casual comments from strangers. Over time, you start to believe these labels are facts, and you build your identity around them like constructing walls around a house. But what if those walls are the very thing keeping you trapped? Eckhart Tolle calls this phenomenon the identity trap. It's the ego's favorite game, convincing you that you are the sum of your roles, achievements, failures, and even your pain. The ego thrives on form. I am this, I am that. But here's the twist. None of those definitions are the real you. Let's break it down. Imagine you've identified yourself as a successful professional. You've worked hard, climbed the ladder, and achieved recognition. But what happens if you lose your job? Suddenly, that identity crumbles, and with it, your sense of self. You feel lost, anxious, maybe even worthless. Not because you've lost yourself, but because you've lost the story you were attached to. Or consider someone who defines themselves by their relationships. I'm a spouse, I'm a parent, I'm someone's best friend. These roles can be meaningful, but when they become the core of your identity, any change, a breakup, a falling out, a child growing up, feels like an existential crisis. But here's where it gets wild. The true self, the real you, exists beyond all these roles and labels. It's not tied to what you do, what you own, or how others perceive you. It's the awareness behind all of it. The silent observer that watches your thoughts, feels your emotions, and experiences life without being defined by any of it. Think about this. Have you ever had a moment of pure presence, where you weren't thinking about who you are or what you're supposed to be? Maybe it was watching a sunset, feeling the ocean breeze, or simply sitting in silence. In those moments, you weren't lost, you were found. That sense of peace came from touching the real you, the part of you that doesn't need an identity to exist. But why does the ego resist this so much? Because the ego's survival depends on maintaining an identity. It's like a character in a play that doesn't want the curtain to close. The ego needs constant reinforcement, validation from others, achievements to prove its worth, even conflicts to define itself against. Without these, the ego feels threatened, as if it's disappearing. And that's exactly the point. The fear of losing your identity is the ego's fear of its own death. But here's the paradox. When you release the false identities, you don't lose yourself. You find your true self, the part that was always there, unchanging, timeless, and free. Let's put this into perspective. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack everywhere you go. Over time, you've forgotten what it feels like to walk without it. You start to believe the backpack is part of you. But the moment you set it down, there's an incredible sense of lightness. That's what it's like to drop the identity trap. You realize you've been carrying weight you didn't need. Now, you might wonder, if I'm not my thoughts, my roles, or my stories, then who am I? Eckhart Tolle points to the answer through presence. You are not the content of your life, you are the space in which that content appears. Just like the sky isn't the clouds, you are not the thoughts and emotions passing through you. You are the awareness that notices them. Here's an exercise to experience this. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice your thoughts. Don't try to control them, just observe. Now ask yourself, who is noticing these thoughts? Feel the space of awareness behind the thoughts. That silent awareness, that's you. It's always been there, untouched by circumstances, labels, or identities. But here's the challenge. The mind will resist this simplicity. It loves complexity, drama, and definitions. It will try to pull you back into identifying with your roles, achievements, or even your problems. The mind might say, if I'm not my story, then what's the point? The point is freedom. When you're no longer trapped by an identity, you can fully experience life without filters. You're not confined by fear of failure because your worth isn't tied to success. You're not devastated by rejection because your value isn't dependent on others' approval. You're not defined by your past because you realize you're not your history, you're the awareness that witnessed it. Consider this. How much of your stress comes from trying to maintain an identity? The need to be seen a certain way, to meet expectations, to uphold an image? Now imagine letting all of that go. Not in a reckless way, but with the understanding that who you truly are needs no validation. This doesn't mean you stop playing roles in life. You can still be a professional, a parent, a friend. But you hold these roles lightly, knowing they're not the essence of you. It's like wearing clothes. You wear them, but you don't confuse them with your skin. Eckhart Tolle shares that the ego often clings to both positive and negative identities. Some people define themselves by their successes, while others define themselves by their struggles. Have you ever met someone who seems attached to their pain story? It's because, for the ego, even a painful identity is better than no identity at all. But once you see this pattern, you can choose to step out of it. So, ask yourself, what stories have I been telling myself about who I am? Are these stories empowering me or limiting me? Who am I beyond these stories? Reflect on this deeply. It's not about finding the right answer. It's about realizing that the question itself points you toward freedom. And here's the most beautiful part. When you release the identity trap, you don't lose anything real. You lose illusions. What remains is your true self, spacious, peaceful, and limitless. Now, as we continue this journey, we'll explore something equally transformative. If the ego's identities create mental clutter, how do you find clarity amidst the noise? In the next section, we'll uncover the power of space and how creating mental stillness can unlock a level of peace you never thought possible. Secret number 4, the power of space. Picture this. You walk into a room cluttered with furniture, random objects piled high, and no clear space to move freely. The air feels heavy, your mind overwhelmed. But then you step into a different room, minimalist, open, with just enough in it to feel peaceful. You breathe easier, think clearer, and feel calmer. Now, what if I told you your mind works the same way? We live in a world obsessed with more information, more tasks, more noise. But Eckhart Tolle reveals a profound truth. It's not the things in our lives that bring us peace. It's the space between them. In fact, the most powerful part of any experience isn't always the content. It's the silence, the stillness, the gaps. That's the hidden power of space. Consider this. Music isn't just a series of notes played one after another. It's the pauses between the notes that give the music rhythm, emotion, and meaning. Without those pauses, it would just be noise. Similarly, in your life, it's the spaces between your thoughts, the moments of stillness, that hold the key to clarity and inner peace. But here's the thing, most of us are afraid of space. Silence makes people uncomfortable. Stillness feels awkward. We rush to fill every moment with activity, every conversation with words, every pause with distractions. Why? Because space exposes us to ourselves. When there's nothing external to focus on, we're left facing the inner noise we've been avoiding. But that's precisely why space is so powerful. It's in the stillness that you meet your true self, not the busy, thinking mind, but the awareness underneath it. Now, you might be wondering, how do I create this mental space in a world that never stops? It starts with a simple shift, noticing the space that's already there. Take a breath right now. Feel the pause between your inhale and exhale. That brief gap, that space. Notice the silence between these words as you read. That space is always present, but we overlook it because we're so focused on the noise. Tolle explains that thoughts are like clouds passing through the sky. Most people spend their lives watching the clouds, identifying with them, reacting to them. But the sky, the vast, open space, is always there, untouched by the passing weather. Your mind is the sky. Your thoughts are just passing clouds. Here's an exercise to experience this directly. Pause for a moment. Close your eyes and listen, not to sounds, but to the silence beneath the sounds. Notice the gaps between noises, the stillness that's always in the background. Did you feel it? That quiet awareness, that's you. It's not something you create. It's what remains when you stop getting lost in thought. But why is this important? Because most of our stress, anxiety, and mental exhaustion come from constant mental noise. We're not overwhelmed by life itself, we're overwhelmed by our thoughts about life. When you create space between your thoughts, you break the cycle of overthinking. Clarity emerges. Peace arises, not because you solved your problems, but because you stepped outside the mental chatter long enough to realize most of those problems were just thoughts. Think about the last time you were deeply stressed. Your mind probably felt like a tangled knot, looping the same worries over and over. Now, imagine if you could pause, breathe, and create just a little space between those thoughts. In that gap, you'd see the situation differently. Maybe even realize it wasn't as overwhelming as it seemed. That's the power of space. Tolle emphasizes that space isn't just about silence or meditation. It's a way of living. You can bring spaciousness into everything you do. In conversations, instead of rushing to respond, pause. Let there be silence. You'll find your words carry more weight when they arise from stillness rather than reactivity. In decision-making, instead of reacting impulsively, create space to reflect. Often, the clarity you seek isn't in thinking harder but in thinking less. In daily life, notice the space around objects, the gaps between sounds, the stillness behind activity. Life isn't just the things happening. It's also the space in which they happen. Now, you might be thinking, isn't this just mindfulness? It's related, but Tolle's insight goes deeper. Mindfulness often focuses on paying attention to something, your breath, sensations, thoughts. But the power of space is about noticing the nothingness, the gaps, the stillness, the emptiness that's not empty at all but full of presence. And here's the paradox. The more space you create, the more alive you feel. That emptiness isn't lifeless. It's vibrant, peaceful, and expansive. It's the feeling you get when you stare at the stars, sit by the ocean, or experience awe. In those moments, you're not overwhelmed by thoughts. You're fully present, open, spacious. But why do we resist this so much? Because the mind is addicted to form, to thoughts, labels, definitions. Space feels like a threat because it's the absence of form. The ego doesn't know what to do with it. But that's exactly why it's transformative. In the absence of mental clutter, you realize you're not your thoughts, you're the space in which thoughts appear. Tolle uses a beautiful metaphor. Imagine holding a cup. Most people focus on the cup itself, its shape, color, design. But what's the most important part of the cup? The empty space inside. Without that space, the cup can't fulfill its purpose. The same is true for you. It's not the content of your life that defines you, but the space that allows life to flow through you. So how do you practice this in daily life? Embrace pauses. Instead of filling every moment with activity, allow gaps. Pause before responding in conversations. Take a breath between tasks. Observe without judgment. When thoughts arise, don't engage with every single one. Watch them like clouds passing without trying to analyze or fix them. Focus on the background. Whether it's silence, stillness, or the space around objects. Notice what's not there. This shifts your attention from content to context. Create physical space. Sometimes decluttering your environment helps declutter your mind. A clean, open space can inspire mental clarity. Let go of doing all the time. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is nothing. Just sit, breathe, and be. As you practice this, something remarkable happens. You begin to realize that peace isn't something you achieve through effort. It's your natural state. The space that's always been there, hidden beneath the noise. Reflect on this. How much of your life is filled with mental clutter? What would happen if you stopped trying to fill every gap and instead welcomed the space? The answer isn't found in thinking more. It's found in thinking less, or rather, in discovering the stillness that was always there when the thinking quiets down. Now, as we continue this journey, there's an even deeper paradox waiting for us. If space is powerful because of its emptiness, what happens when we completely surrender to what is, without resistance? In the next section, we'll explore the surrender paradox, and how giving up control might be the most empowering thing you'll ever do. Secret number 5. The surrender paradox. Imagine holding onto a rope with all your strength, your hands aching, your muscles tense, afraid that if you let go, you'll fall. But here's the twist, you're already standing on solid ground. The fear was an illusion, and the struggle was unnecessary. That's the paradox of surrender. Most of us believe that to succeed in life, we must fight, control, and constantly push against challenges. Surrender sounds like the opposite of strength. Feels like giving up, like losing. But Eckhart Tolle reveals something astonishing. True power comes not from resistance, but from acceptance. Now, let's be clear. Surrender doesn't mean passive resignation. It's not about saying, oh well, there's nothing I can do, and giving up on life. It's about something much deeper. It's the inner shift from resistance to acceptance, from fighting against life to flowing with it. It's the realization that peace doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from aligning with the natural flow of existence. Think about water. When it encounters an obstacle, it doesn't try to smash through it. It flows around it, effortlessly finding its way. Yet, over time, water can carve through rock, not through force, but through persistence and adaptability. That's the essence of surrender. But here's the paradox. Surrender feels like losing control, but it's actually the path to true freedom. Consider this: how much of your stress comes from trying to control things beyond your influence? The traffic jam you can't escape, the person who won't change, the past you can't rewrite. We spend so much mental energy resisting what is, creating stories in our minds about how things should be. And that resistance creates suffering. Tolle explains that pain is inevitable in life. Things will happen that you don't like. But suffering? That's optional. Suffering arises when you mentally resist reality. When you say, this shouldn't be happening, but reality doesn't care about your opinions. It simply is. Here's an experiment. Think of something that's been bothering you, a situation you've been resisting. Now, instead of trying to change it in your mind, take a deep breath and silently say, I allow this to be as it is. Feel the shift. Notice how, even if nothing outside has changed, something inside you has softened. That's surrender. It doesn't mean you approve of the situation or that you won't take action if needed. It simply means you're no longer fighting reality in your mind. But why is this so hard? Because the ego thrives on resistance. The ego's identity is built around stories of being right, of being in control, of being the victim. Surrender threatens the ego because it requires dropping those stories. Tolle often says, die before you die. What does that mean? It's not about physical death. It's about the death of the ego, the false self that clings to control and resists life. When you surrender, you let that part of you die, and what remains is something deeper, more authentic. But here's the beautiful part. When you surrender, you don't lose yourself. You find your true self. The self that's not defined by circumstances, achievements, or identities. The self that's already whole, already at peace, even in the midst of chaos. Consider this metaphor. Imagine you're holding a cup of muddy water. If you keep shaking it, the water stays cloudy. But if you set it down and leave it alone, the mud settles, and the water becomes clear. The same is true for your mind. Constant mental agitation, resistance, judgment, overthinking, keeps you in turmoil. Surrender is like setting the cup down, allowing clarity to emerge naturally. But does this mean you should never strive for anything, never set goals, never face challenges? Not at all. Surrender doesn't mean inaction. It means acting from a place of inner peace rather than fear or desperation. Think of an athlete in the zone. They're fully engaged, giving their best effort, but there's no mental struggle. They're not forcing, they're flowing. That's surrender in action. Tolle distinguishes between outer surrender and inner surrender. Outer surrender might involve accepting situations you can't change. Inner surrender is deeper. It's the letting go of mental resistance, even when you're actively working to change something. For example, you might be in a difficult job situation. Outer surrender doesn't mean you have to stay in that job forever. You can still look for new opportunities. But inner surrender means you're not mentally fighting your current reality. You accept, this is where I am right now, without adding layers of frustration or self-pity. From that place of acceptance, your actions become clearer and more effective. Here's a practice to explore surrender. Notice resistance. Throughout your day, pay attention to moments when you feel tense, frustrated, or anxious. That's usually a sign of mental resistance. Pause and breathe. Instead of reacting immediately, take a conscious breath. Shift your mindset. Silently say to yourself, I allow this moment to be as it is. Feel the release. Act from clarity. Once you've accepted the situation, ask, what's the most peaceful, effective response I can offer? Over time, you'll notice that surrender doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful, not through control, but through alignment with life's natural flow. Tolle shares a profound insight. Whatever you accept completely will take you to peace, even if it seems like something negative. This doesn't mean you won't feel emotions like sadness or disappointment, but instead of layering additional suffering on top through resistance, you allow emotions to move through you without becoming trapped. Consider nature's wisdom. Trees don't resist the changing seasons. They shed their leaves in autumn without complaint, stand bare in winter without shame, bloom in spring without forcing it. There's no struggle, just an effortless flow with life's rhythms. Humans, on the other hand, often resist change, clinging to what was or anxiously grasping for what's next. But life is change. Resisting it is like trying to hold back the tide. Surrender is realizing you are the tide, part of the same flow. Now, here's the real paradox. The more you surrender, the more life seems to work out effortlessly. Opportunities arise, synchronicities happen, and even challenges feel less daunting. Why? Because you're no longer blocking life's natural intelligence with mental noise. But even when things don't go as planned, surrender transforms your experience. You realize peace isn't dependent on external circumstances. It's your natural state, obscured only by the clouds of resistance. Reflect on this. Where in your life are you holding on too tightly? What would it feel like to release that grip, even just a little? Remember, surrender isn't a one-time event. It's a practice, a way of being. Each moment offers a new opportunity to soften, to let go, to trust the flow of life. And as we continue this journey, there's an even deeper realization waiting. If surrender reveals that peace isn't out there but within you, what if the present moment itself holds the key to everything you've been seeking? In the next section, we'll explore the now revolution and how the simple act of being fully present can dissolve stress, awaken joy, and transform your life in ways you never imagined. Secret number 6, the now revolution. Imagine this: you're sitting in a room, but your mind is anywhere but here. It's racing through past regrets, worrying about the future, replaying conversations, or making endless to-do lists. Now ask yourself, how much of your life is spent like this? Physically present, but mentally elsewhere? Eckhart Tolle calls this the greatest illusion of our time, the belief that fulfillment lies somewhere else, some other time, in some future moment when everything finally falls into place. But here's the radical truth. Life doesn't happen in the past or future. It only ever happens now. Let that sink in. The past is nothing more than memories stored in your mind. The future? It's just imagination, mental projections that haven't happened yet. The only thing that's ever real is this moment. Right now. Tolle calls this the now revolution. A shift so simple yet so profound. It can dissolve stress, awaken joy, and transform your entire experience of life. But here's the strange part. Even though the present moment is the only thing that's real, we resist it constantly. We treat the now like an obstacle, something to rush through on the way to something better. We think, I'll be happy when I get that promotion, when I'm in a relationship, when I lose weight, when I achieve this goal. But here's the trap: when never comes. Because even when you achieve those things, your mind immediately jumps to the next problem, the next goal, the next worry. It's like chasing the horizon. No matter how fast you run, it's always just out of reach. Tolle puts it simply: stress is caused by being here but wanting to be there. So what happens when you flip this script? When you stop chasing and start being? That's the revolution. Let's break it down. First, understand this. The mind is a brilliant tool, but it's also a trickster. It convinces you that happiness is somewhere else. But happiness isn't found in thoughts about life. It's found in life itself. And life only happens now. Think of it like this. Imagine holding a snow globe. When you shake it, the snow swirls chaotically, making it hard to see clearly. That's your mind when it's filled with endless thoughts. Past, future, worries, judgments. But if you set the snow globe down, the snow settles and clarity emerges. The practice of presence is like that. It's about setting the mind down, even just for a moment, and noticing the simplicity of this moment. The breath entering your body, the sensation of your feet on the ground, the sounds around you, the aliveness of now. But here's where it gets fascinating. When you fully inhabit the present moment, something shifts. You realize that beneath the surface noise of thoughts, there's a deep, unshakable peace. Not because life is perfect, but because you've stopped arguing with reality. You're not lost in stories about how things should be. You're awake to how they are. Tolle often says, realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. And it's true. Think about it. Even when you recall the past, you're doing it now. When you imagine the future, you're doing it now. There's no escape from the present because it's all there is. But if that's true, Why is it so hard to stay present? Because the mind has been conditioned to seek. It's been trained to believe that fulfillment is always just one step ahead. This is what Tolle calls the mind's addiction to time, and like any addiction, the first step to breaking it is awareness. So, let's try something right now. Pause for a moment. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel the air entering your lungs. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. Listen to the sounds around you, not labeling them, just noticing. Notice how, in this simple act of presence, there's a spaciousness, a stillness. Even if your mind tries to pull you back into thought, there's a gap, a moment of awareness beyond thinking. That gap is the doorway to freedom. But don't mistake presence for passivity. It's not about zoning out or disconnecting. In fact, it's the opposite. Presence is the most vibrant, alive state you can experience. When you're fully here, colors seem brighter, sounds clearer, sensations more vivid. Life isn't dulled by mental noise. It's amplified by awareness. Think of moments when you felt truly alive. Maybe watching a sunset, listening to your favorite song, or holding someone you love. In those moments, time seemed to disappear. You weren't thinking about the past or future. You were here, fully immersed in the now. The good news? You don't have to wait for special moments to feel that way. Presence is available anytime, anywhere. Here's a practice Tolle recommends. Anchor to the body. Your body is always in the present, even when your mind isn't. Feel the sensation of your breath, the weight of your body, the feeling of your hands. This grounds you in the now. Notice the gaps. Between thoughts, there's always a tiny gap, a space of pure awareness. Start noticing those gaps. They're small at first, but with practice, they expand. Shift from thinking to observing. Instead of getting lost in thoughts, become the observer of thoughts. Notice them like clouds passing in the sky. Temporary, not who you are. But here's where it gets even more profound. Tolle explains that you're not just aware of the present moment. You are the present moment. You're not separate from life. You are life experiencing itself through the lens of now. This realization changes everything. You stop feeling like a person lost in time, chasing after moments. You recognize that you're the timeless awareness in which all moments appear and disappear. And from this place, something magical happens. Stress dissolves. Not because your problems vanish, but because you're no longer mentally trapped in them. You deal with situations as they arise, but without the added layer of mental resistance. Consider this. Worrying about the future doesn't change it. Regretting the past doesn't rewrite it. But being fully present changes everything because it transforms you. And when you change, your entire experience of life shifts. Tolle describes it like this. Wherever you are, be there totally. Whether you're washing dishes, walking in nature, or having a conversation, be fully engaged. Not lost in thought, but awake to the simple miracle of being. But don't just take my word for it. Test it for yourself. The next time you find your mind racing, pause. Take a breath. Feel the aliveness of your body. Listen to the sounds around you. Notice how, even if nothing outside has changed, something inside feels lighter, more spacious, more you. That's the power of now. But here's the final twist. This isn't just about stress relief or feeling calm. Presence is the gateway to something even deeper. Because when you're fully here, without the filters of thought, you start to sense something beyond the surface of life. A presence, an intelligence, a stillness that's not separate from you but is you. It's the realization that you're not a person having experiences. You're the awareness in which all experiences arise. And that leads us to the ultimate secret, the truth that ties everything together. In the next section, we'll explore the most mind-bending realization of all. A truth so profound that, once you see it, nothing will ever be the same again. Secret number 7. The ultimate truth. Imagine living in a world where your sense of reality is entirely shaped by your internal state rather than external events. This might sound surprising, but Eckhart Tolle's teachings reveal that our experience of life is not a series of random occurrences happening to us, but a dynamic unfolding happening through us. This shift in understanding is one of the most powerful realizations you can have, and it can transform how you approach every moment of your life. Perception shapes reality. Think for a moment about how perception influences your experience. Two people can go through the same situation and come out with completely different interpretations. Imagine standing in a crowded room at a party. One person might feel joyful, seeing it as an opportunity to connect and celebrate. Another person might feel anxious and overwhelmed by the noise and crowd. The event remains the same. It's the perception that changes the experience. Tolle's teachings encourage us to recognize that this principle applies not just to fleeting events but to the very fabric of existence. Your internal thoughts, emotions, and energy are like a filter through which you perceive the world. If your filter is clouded by fear, doubt, or negativity, life will reflect those feelings back to you. Conversely, when your mind is clear and present, you begin to see life as peaceful, meaningful, and full of possibilities. From reaction to creation. One of the most profound shifts you can make is moving from a reactive state to a creative one. Most people live their lives in constant reaction mode, responding automatically to the circumstances they face. When something inconvenient happens, say, a delayed flight or a disagreement with a coworker, many of us are quick to react with frustration, anger, or anxiety. We feel as though these external events are forcing us into these emotional states. But what if you had the power to choose a different response? What if the events themselves were neutral, and your perception shaped the meaning you assign to them? According to Tolle, awareness is the key to making this shift. When you cultivate awareness, you gain the ability to pause, observe your thoughts and emotions, and consciously choose how to respond. This awareness puts you back in the driver's seat of your life. Instead of being a victim of circumstances, you become the creator of your experiences. It's a liberating realization that allows you to navigate challenges with grace and transform obstacles into opportunities. The role of presence. At the heart of Tolle's teachings is the idea of presence. The present moment is the only place where life truly unfolds. Yet, most people spend their time dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. This mental tug-of-war keeps them disconnected from the now, which is where true power resides. When you are fully present, you enter a state of flow where everything becomes more vibrant and meaningful. Simple activities like walking, eating, or listening to music take on a new depth. You become attuned to the subtle beauty of life that often goes unnoticed when your mind is preoccupied. Presence also dissolves many of the mental and emotional challenges we face. Anxiety, for example, is often rooted in thoughts about what might happen in the future. Guilt and regret are anchored in past experiences. By bringing your attention to the present, these burdens lose their grip on you, allowing you to experience peace and clarity. Conscious awareness as a creative force. Understanding that reality unfolds through you requires a heightened sense of awareness. Tolle emphasizes that your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions are not just passive reflections of your experiences. They actively shape your reality. Consider the metaphor of a garden. If you plant seeds of doubt, negativity, and fear, your garden will be filled with thorny weeds that make life difficult and unpleasant. But if you plant seeds of peace, love, and gratitude, your garden will bloom with vibrant flowers that bring joy and fulfillment. This metaphor illustrates the importance of being mindful of the seeds you are planting with your thoughts and emotions. When you become conscious of these internal dynamics, you gain the ability to cultivate a life that aligns with your highest aspirations. The illusion of separation. Another mind-bending aspect of this secret is the realization that you are not separate from the world around you. The sense of separation we often feel is a mental construct reinforced by societal conditioning. In reality, everything is interconnected. Tolle explains that when you see yourself as separate from others and the world, it creates a sense of isolation and discontent. But when you break free from this illusion, you experience a profound sense of unity and connection. You begin to see yourself as part of a greater whole, which naturally fosters compassion, empathy, and a deep appreciation for life. This shift in perspective transforms how you interact with others and approach challenges. Instead of seeing life as a series of battles to be won, you begin to experience it as a harmonious dance where everything is interconnected and meaningful. Practical steps to embody the ultimate truth. So how can you integrate this transformative understanding into your daily life? Here are some practical steps inspired by Tolle's teachings. Practice mindful observation. Set aside time each day to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Notice how they arise and pass, like clouds moving across the sky. Anchor yourself in the present. Whenever you catch your mind drifting to the past or future, gently bring your attention back to the present moment. Use your breath, sensory experiences, or a simple mantra to stay grounded. Choose empowering responses. When faced with a challenging situation, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, what response aligns with peace and awareness? Embrace stillness. Create moments of silence and stillness throughout your day. This creates space for clarity and helps you connect with your true self. Cultivate gratitude. Focus on the positive aspects of your life and express gratitude for them. This practice shifts your perspective and attracts more positive experiences. Transforming your reality. By integrating these practices, you begin to live from a place of conscious awareness. Reality no longer feels like something happening to you. It becomes a dynamic canvas that you co-create with your thoughts, emotions, and energy. This shift empowers you to navigate life with a sense of purpose, peace, and fulfillment. The ultimate truth that Tolle shares is not just a philosophical idea. It's a practical, life-changing insight that can transform how you experience every moment. When you understand that reality unfolds through you, you unlock the potential to live a life that reflects your deepest desires and highest aspirations. We've just uncovered 7 mind-bending secrets from Eckhart Tolle's transformative teachings. Insights that have the potential to shift your entire perception of reality. But let's take a moment to truly reflect on what we've learned. In the first secret, we discovered how the illusion of control keeps us trapped in a cycle of stress and tension. Yet, once we let go of the need to control everything around us, we open ourselves up to a deeper sense of peace and freedom. The simple act of releasing control becomes a powerful tool in our personal growth. Then, we explored the concept of the pain body. This hidden force, made up of unresolved emotional pain, can take over our reactions and keep us stuck in negative cycles. Tolle's revelation about the pain body gives us the power to break free from the grip of our past, allowing us to truly heal and move forward. In the third secret, we learned about the identity trap, the ego's ability to create false identities that keep us from accessing our authentic selves. Tolle challenges us to question everything we believe about who we are, to strip away these layers of illusion, and find our true essence beneath the stories we've been telling ourselves. It's a deeply liberating idea, but one that many of us shy away from because it requires us to let go of what we think we know. The fourth secret introduced us to the concept of creating mental space. We imagine our minds as cluttered rooms filled with endless distractions, making it nearly impossible to find peace. Yet, Tolle shows us that by clearing this mental clutter, we create room for clarity and focus, 2 things that many of us desperately need in our fast-paced world. Now, the fifth secret might just be the most paradoxical of them all, the idea of surrender. Most of us have been taught that surrender equals weakness, but in reality, it is the key to unlocking transformation. By accepting things as they are, without resistance, we free ourselves from suffering and open the door to a deeper, more fulfilling experience of life. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means embracing what is, without judgment. We also discussed the revolutionary power of the present moment. Tolle's message is clear. The key to living a life free from stress and anxiety is to focus on the now. But here's the kicker. Most of us resist this idea because we're so conditioned to live in the past or the future. The truth is, the present moment holds all the power we need to create joy and inner peace. And finally, we came to the ultimate truth. Reality isn't something that happens to us. It unfolds through us. This profound insight ties together all of the other secrets, showing us that the world we experience is a direct reflection of our own consciousness. Once we internalize this truth, we stop being passive observers of life and begin to actively participate in the creation of our own reality. Nothing will ever look the same after that realization. But as we wrap up today, I want to ask you a simple question. Which of these 7 secrets hit you the hardest? Was it the idea of letting go of control, or perhaps the realization that your pain might be part of an unconscious pattern that you can break. Maybe the concept of surrender or the now revolution spoke to you in a way that shifted your perspective. Take a moment to reflect on the insights we've shared today. Which one felt like it was speaking directly to you, offering you a new way to approach life, to challenge your assumptions, or to simply find peace in the midst of the chaos? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Share which of these secrets resonated with you the most. Was there one that really shifted your understanding of reality? Or maybe you found a new approach to a challenge you've been facing in your own life. Your insights might just inspire someone else to see the world through a different lens. I believe that when we share our thoughts and experiences with others, we create a ripple effect that spreads far beyond just us. You never know who might be looking for exactly what you've just discovered. So, don't be afraid to share your story and insights in the comments, because your journey can help someone else on theirs. Before we wrap things up, I want to ask you for a small favor. If you found this video valuable, if it opened your mind, made you see things in a new light, or inspired you to dive deeper into Eckhart Tolle's teachings, then please hit that like button. Your support helps this channel grow, and it means the world to me. And if you're ready to take your personal growth journey even further, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Every week, we explore new ideas, share transformative wisdom, and dive into life-changing teachings that can help you break free from limiting beliefs, find inner peace, and create the life you've always wanted. So, hit the subscribe button and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the upcoming videos. As always, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope you found these teachings as impactful as I have, and that they continue to guide you toward a more conscious, fulfilled, and peaceful life. Remember, the power to transform your reality is already within you. All it takes is the willingness to see things from a new perspective, to embrace the present moment, and to let go of everything that no longer serves you. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care of yourselves, stay present, and keep living with purpose.